Hello, my name is Daniel Stillwell. I'm the editor of the IFTA e-newsletter. We are here in Aberdeen, Scotland at the conference. It's 2025, and we have with us Dr. Jenny Brown, all the way from Australia. So thank you so much for being here.
Pleasure, Daniel. Just getting over my jet lag.
Of course. So we wanted to talk about some of your work, your presentation here at the conference. So let's start there. What are you presenting?
I'm presenting on a manualized program called the Parent Hope Project that has been developing out of my clinical work and supervision work over a couple of decades now.
Oh, wow. It
is a semi-manualized parent-based program as an intervention for struggling children and young people.
Okay, all right. So semi-manualized, so there's a standard program, there's a standard set of expectations you can give clients and their families. Tell us a little bit about what that is.
Well, the program itself, it does have a manual, an introduction session to engage with the parents. It's working with parents with the idea that, as we heard in this morning's panel, if you can change and improve your relationship, everything around you changes. I love that comment. And of course, if the parent-child relationship can change, the child will be able to do better.
Right.
So the manualized program has 6 sessions. 3 sessions are stepping back to help the parent observe their interactions. And the second part, 3 sessions, are stepping up into what can I do that's within my control. So it's not trying to push or change the child. How can I as a parent discover things I can adjust? From looking with my therapist at the interaction together, very collaborative, building parent agency and insight. And it has a booster follow-up session at the end. I call it semi-manualized because the therapist and the parent, they'll make it fit their situation, and the therapist will bring their own particular style and personality.
Right.
But there is a cohesive theoretical approach here that is into a manualized format.
Okay. Now, the world of family therapy has a lot of theories and manuals or models out there right now. What did you end up drawing from the most to develop this?
Yes. Well, my original family therapy training was Milan systemic and then post-Milan, but I lived and worked and trained in the US in the 1990s and discovered Dr. Murray Bowen's theory when I was in a training program with Betty Carter.
Oh, yeah.
And there's one key thing from Bowen theory that grabbed my attention because I've worked a lot in the CAM sector, or child and young people's mental health, and Bowen in his original research discovered and put out there that if the parents could stop making a project out of their child and make themselves the project of change, it would be groundbreaking in the outcome for that child. For Bowen, it was a total turnaround for him in the practice of family psychotherapy. And I have seen that, the relevance of that piece of his research and theory in many years since. And so hence I call this the Parent Hope Project.
Right.
The hope is, of course, that the parent can be a resource to benefit their child's well-being and health and their resourcefulness and their development and flourishing in life. Every parent wants that, but it's through making a project of the parent, and that's very much grounded in Bowen's research and discoveries.
Nice. One evolution of some of those ideas that is probably 20 years old at this point, is the bringing in neuroscience. How Dan Siegel's work, Parenting from the Inside Out, the book, is a lot of that. It's like stop projecting, stop interjecting, like do your own work first, then you'll probably be fine. So will your kid.
Yes, I mean, we're all affecting each other. Affecting how our brains operate, our physiology, our reactivity. We know that as family therapists. But that's the hope message. If we're always affecting each other, We're always co-regulating. It's not a one-way strategy from parent to child. We're always
Right,
co-regulating. But the hopeful message is therefore an adjustment that one person makes can have a profoundly positive ripple effect for the whole family.
What's an example of that from a either multicultural or international lens, since that's who's basically going to be watching?
Well, I have taken this work to Singapore recently, and they asked me, how does this fit in a collectivist society where the whole idea of differentiating a self sounds like it's an antithesis to cultural values.
Even who is the parent is itself more amorphous.
That's right. It's a multi-generational families in living together. So culturally, there are clearly differences in the whole experience of parent-child relationships and the family and generational involvement. But there are some universal aspects of being human and parents that cut across culture. You don't want to ignore the important clothing that different culture wears. But I think that any intervention that recognizes the natural protective instinct of a caregiver to their young and how to mobilize that, which every caregiver wants to do, whatever the shape of the family looks like, how to mobilize that to not be overprotective, to get that balanced parenting, a calm connection that also facilitates a child's resourcefulness, independence. I think that resonates. It's been my experience in working with Asian families and different socio-economics as well, but it also brings in the semi-manualized program. In a manual, there's a lot in this manual that could be read by a parent. Not all parents are readers or learn and engage with that, so you need to adapt appropriately. So it doesn't prescribe you must do this homework between sessions. The parent is in charge. They have their own pressures and time pressures, and they will bring what they can to the effort. So there's that important flexibility to fit where the parent and the family is at.
Wonderful. I love the idea of foundational family systems concepts getting new life, or finding a new home, or finding a new book, manual, whatever to find itself in. How do you translate this or communicate this to people who still see psychology or therapy as an individual thing?
Well, it is difficult, as you would know, Daniel, I'm sure, in the world of CAMS or in the US intensive behavioral health programs, because they're still very much in an individual cause and effect medical model. And for this program to be helpful, it's really important to reduce the medical lens or the sickness in the child lens. I don't think you can take it away because you have a struggling child, but not to make that the focus. And that's not easy because parents are anxiously looking for a fix. And if medication and diagnosis and medical models will promise that, parents will go searching for it. So it's not something parents are looking for. They're looking for help, but they are looking for, and this program partly was developed out of my own research with parents in a CAM setting and researching their experience of their involvement in their young person's mental health treatment. And all of the parents that I interviewed at the start of their young person's admission, they had a lot of hope, but none of it was invested in them. It was all invested in the experts. They've finally found this expert multidisciplinary program and it's going to fix their child. And if I can put the findings in a nutshell, and the parents that I interviewed, really helped shape the program. Their language, their words are in the manual. And the ones that had sustained hopefulness 6 months after their young person's discharge were the ones who had shifted where their hope was invested.
There you go.
Yeah, but I can make a difference. I can change myself. And so I call it agency-based hope.
Sure, yeah.
And that's what this program is really aiming for. But parents aren't looking for it. So like any of these family approaches, while they have so much to benefit from, we need professionals and those in the community to be speaking to the value of it, to help parents trust it. And that's one of the challenges.
Yes, the language, and I don't know who told me this years ago, but the language that I think about is the putting hope. I like the idea of putting energy, putting investment into where's the power source. And oftentimes parents forget that they hold as much power as they do. And they can wield that power over their child or someone else, or they can use it to invest in making sure that their power, their authority is as effective as it can be.
I have had parents who've done the program say to me after it, they say, I never thought that doing a parent program could leave me feeling better about myself.
Yeah.
And that's a paradox, isn't it? I'm going to work on my part in my child being stuck, which sounds guilt-inducing, but it's actually hope-building.
Well, you got to process the guilt, but once you get there, then there's a future worth being hopeful about.
Yes, and I see that doesn't take a lot, little shifts that a parent can discover they can make through the key technique clinically is well known to family therapists. It's tracing a sequence. A sequence of interaction, because when a therapist can collaborate with a parent, let's look at the interaction in detail, map it out on a whiteboard if you like, using visuals, and then think together what's working, what's not effective. And parents can see both, and you can help them to see both, because you're observing together like a joint research team. And out of that, parents discover things that they can change immediately that don't create a perfect fix. But they open up a hopeful pathway.
Absolutely. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for presenting and sharing this with a bunch of people and sharing it with a bunch more people through the online system. You're here in Scotland.
Yes.
Are you getting to do anything fun?
Oh, I am.
Okay.
Yes. So when the conference is over, doing a little bit of family of origin exploration with my husband, going up to the Shetlands and the Highlands, and where many of our ancestors come from.
That's exciting.
So it was an extra incentive to come.
Well, I'm glad you're able to do that.
Yeah,
that's very meaningful, and getting to do it in person instead of just looking up things online. It's very different. So, all right. Well, Dr. Jenny Brown, thank you so much for being here, and appreciate it.
Thank you.